in the quiet hum of Miller's Diner, where the scent of burnt coffee clung to the morning air, a story of unnoticed kindness was about to unfold. Every day, as the weak sun struggled against gray clouds, an old woman named Eleanor Hayes would sit alone in a corner booth. She was a picture of quiet sorrow, wrapped in a long black coat, a silver feather brooch her only adornment. Her eyes held a deep sadness, the kind that follows a life stripped of its greatest loves. Most people saw her as just another fixture in the old diner, but one person saw more. Mara Weaver, a young waitress running on tips and a sliver of faith, noticed her every single morning. Mara had her own struggles, her own battles to fight, but she carried a fierce belief in the simple power of kindness. And so it began. It wasn't with grand gestures or probing questions. It was with a piece of toast, a little warmer than the rest. A coffee cup refilled before it was even empty. A gentle smile that asked for nothing in return. Mara would quietly place these small gifts before Eleanor, a silent offering of warmth in a cold world. Eleanor never said much, but her eyes would soften just for a moment as Mara passed by. A silent friendship started to bloom in that corner booth, nurtured not by words, but by shared moments of quiet compassion. It was a language of the heart, spoken through warm mugs and knowing glances. Then, one particularly bleak morning, the silence was broken. Eleanor's voice, frail but clear, cut through the diner's low hum. "I have nowhere to go," she confessed, the words heavy with shame and despair. Her small rented room was gone, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back and the grief in her heart. Mara looked at this woman who had become a quiet part of her daily routine. She saw not a burden but a person in need. Without a moment of hesitation, the words tumbled out, simple and true. "You can stay with me." It wasn't a grand offer. Mara's apartment was tiny, barely big enough for one, but her heart was big enough for two. She took Eleanor home, sharing her small space, her meager food, her only bed. She gave what little she had, and in doing so, she gave everything. For a week, they lived as unlikely roommates, two lonely souls finding solace in each other's company. Then, just as suddenly as she had arrived, Eleanor was gone. All that remained was a note left on the kitchen table, the handwriting elegant but shaky. It read, "Thank you for giving me back hope." Mara's heart sank. She worried for the old woman, alone again in the world. She searched, she asked around, but it was as if Eleanor Hayes had vanished into thin air. Weeks turned into a month. Life at the diner returned to its usual rhythm, but the corner booth felt emptier than ever. One afternoon, the jingle of the diner's bell was replaced by the low rumble of engines. A convoy of sleek black SUVs pulled up, a sight so out of place it brought the entire diner to a standstill. Men in sharp, expensive suits stepped out and entered the diner. Their eyes scanned the room until they landed on Mara. "Are you Mara Weaver?" one of them asked, his tone polite but firm. Mara's heart pounded in her chest. Had she done something wrong? Was this about Eleanor? They didn't explain. They simply asked her to come with them. Numb with confusion and a growing sense of dread, Mara was escorted to one of the luxurious vehicles. The car glided silently through the city streets, leaving her familiar world far behind, and finally pulled through the imposing gates of a grand, sprawling mansion. They led her through opulent halls, past priceless art and lavish furniture, until they reached a sun-drenched sitting room. And there, sitting in a plush armchair, was Eleanor. But this was not the frail, destitute woman from the diner. This Eleanor was dressed in an elegant silk robe, her hair perfectly styled. The sadness in her eyes was still there, but it was now framed by an aura of wealth and power. She was Eleanor Hayes, but she was also Eleanor Delacroix, the sole heir to a vast corporate empire. She explained how after losing her beloved husband and only son in a tragic accident, she had been consumed by grief. The world seemed cruel and empty. So she had disappeared, leaving her fortune and identity behind, to wander the world as a poor widow. She was on a desperate search, not for money or power, but for a single shred of proof that kindness still existed. "I had almost given up," Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion as she took Mara's hands in her own. "I was ready to believe the world had gone cold. Then I met you. You, who had so little, gave me everything. You didn't do it for a reward. You did it because your heart is good." Tears streamed down Mara's face as the truth washed over her. Eleanor smiled, a real radiant smile this time. "I don't need another maid or a nurse. My company has plenty of those. What I need is a heart I can trust. I need family." She squeezed Mara's hands. "I want you by my side, Mara. Not as an employee, but as my family. Everything I have, this house, my company, it will all one day be yours. Not because of blood, but because of a bond forged in love and kindness." In that moment, standing in a mansion she could never have imagined, Mara realized her life had been forever changed. Not by the promise of wealth, but by the profound realization that a simple act of compassion, warm piece of toast, a shared bed, an open heart, had the power to heal the deepest wounds and create a family where there was none. It's a beautiful reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the smallest act of love is all it takes to turn a stranger into family, and to show someone who feels forgotten that they are, and always have been, seen. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content. We'll see you in the next one.